watching Sunday Soundoff with D. Jackson, sponsored by Victory Ford.
And good evening to you. It was a wild one. Kansas State was able to send the Cinderella team home, beating UMBC 50-43 for the first time since 2010. They head to the Sweet 16. It wasn't the prettiest game for the Wildcats, but they come out with the win. Barry Brown led the way with 18 points. K-State went 18 of 44 in field goals and only made 1 3 all night long with 18 turnovers.
I know it was an ugly win and probably hard to watch, but their perseverance that we've talked about, their courage, and just it's gutsy. I mean, we just kept saying we weren't scoring, but we just said kept guarding. We're still winning.
I think with our guys, the experience of having those losses, those tough losses, prepared us for this moment right here, and we were able to buckle down, stay poised, and make the big plays in the end.
And dunk like you said, and it just gave us a lot of energy and that boost to show us that we could win this game, and we pulled through and got the win.
Now, Kansas has already punched their ticket to the Sweet 16. Who is next? It's going to be the Clemson Tigers. Jayhawks were able to make it past the second round after beating Seton Hall 83-79. Kansas led by 13 points with 12 minutes to go. The Pirates made it a 3-point game in the final moments. Despite all the criticism on this year's team, KU keeps finding ways to win.
And everybody, including myself, has said what's wrong with this team all year long. We don't do this, or we don't do that, or we're too small, we don't have enough depth, or we don't play hard enough, or we're not thirsty or hungry enough. And all they've done is they're the number 3 overall seed and won 2 games in the tournament going to Sweet 16.
I feel great. We're just giving us a chance to go farther, and we're just blessed and thankful for that.
This is what you expect to do from the beginning of the season, and what we always talk about, getting back to the Elite Eight and stuff like that. So we got one more game to get back there, and we just got to focus and regroup this week.
More on the big games coming up a little bit later on with our experts. High school basketball has crowned its champions, and for the Grandview Bulldogs, history was made in Springfield on Saturday. The welcome wagon was in full effect as fans and the community came out to welcome the champs home. It's the Bulldogs' first state championship ever after defeating Raytown South 81-63. Happy times for the Bulldogs.
This has just been a great experience. Very, very happy for our kids, our school, and our community. We've always had a high tradition of legacy as a basketball program, but to be able to bring the first state title to Grandview is a great accomplishment.
Congratulations, Coach. Out west, the Royals taking on the Chicago Cubs in spring training play. We pick things up at the top of the first. That's Frank Schwindel. Gets the Royals on the board with this homer. It's deep to center field. Chesler Cuthbert scores. The Royals go up 2-0. Then, what do you need? A little Soler power, as in Jorge Soler takes one deep in the second inning, and the Royals are up 3. 6th inning now, Royals down 6-5. Get your Moose calls going. Mike Moustakas blasts a 3-run homer. That's what the Royals needed. Good guys win it 11-9. Chiefs getting ready for OTA soon, but still holding open auditions in the free agent market. Several players making visits this week, including former Grandview star Xavier Williams of the Cardinals. Chiefs could try to ink out a deal and steal the man away from Arizona. Sporting Kansas City was able to get its second win of the season against San Jose last night. Second half, strikes from Graham Zuzi and Felipe Gutierrez gave Sporting the 3-2 victory. With plenty of new faces on the roster, it seems as the club is meshing together, scoring 7 goals this early, something that hasn't happened since August of 2015.
I would just say that right now, I think that we're getting game to game, we're getting more familiar with each other, but we still have a lot to work on. It's, what do we got? 3 games in right now, so we got 31 left. We got a long way to go.
Long way to go on this show, too. Coming up on Sunday Soundoff, the panel's ready to weigh in, and of course, your comments are always a plus. The Soundoff is just around the corner.
You're watching Sunday Soundoff with D. Jackson, sponsored by Victory Ford.
Well, good evening to you. It's Kansas City's favorite late-night sports show. If not, just nod your head and pretend to agree. Your questions, comments are more than welcome. Hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SundaySoundoff. Now to introduce you to the panel of experts. Host from the program, Sports Radio 810. Welcome back in, Soren Petro.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, D.
Always a pleasure. And in the center square, the always dapper, honorable Darren Smith of The Ship.
Hey, look, I'm going to introduce you and everyone else to the No
bull jives on tonight.
Oh,
Let's get it started.
Hope the censors are not watching. And making his debut on Sunday Soundoff, it's Derek Hacklin. Give him a round of applause. Welcome in, Derek.
Thank you, Dee. Unlike Auburn, I remembered what time tip-off was and what time we needed to be here today.
I'm glad you are here. We are live in the studio, ready to take it to you. So, first question of the night. How far did you guys have Kansas State going in your bracket? They are dancing in the Sweet 16. Let's start with the elder statesman, Mr. Soren Petro.
You know, I had them going out in the first round. And listen, I give all credit to Bruce Weber. I mean, part of that was just by that's what they do. Bruce Weber had always gone out in the first round since he'd gotten to K-State. You felt like there'd be a time where he'd get it done. And listen, I had him, you know, really curious as to whether or not he'd get by this second round game just because finally gets by the first round game. And then what does he get to do? He gets to be a 10-point favorite without one of his best players, without his best player, most people would say, and has to go out and do it against the biggest Cinderella the NCAA tournament has ever seen. Isn't that exactly what you expect Bruce Weber to have to do? And then to not get it done, the guy actually gets an NCAA tournament win, but still has K-State fans scratching their head. He needs to make no apologies. They're in the Sweet 16. There have been many a team that got a yellow brick road on into later stages of the NCAA tournament, and congratulations to Bruce Weber. He's one of the good guys. I didn't have him going very far, and frankly, I don't have him going very much further, but then again, that's probably the way they like it because nobody thought they were going to be doing anything.
Darren, this team has surprised a lot of people. Some people say they're going to keep going. Some people say the road is over. How do you have them?
Well, I'll put it like this. First, I got to give a big shout out to Steve Wilson. He's one of my people on social media that kind of bothered me about this. I actually had them going out in the first round as well. So I think them getting to the Sweet 16, them being overlooked and underestimated, I think that's just the way they like it, and Bruce Weber likes it as well. So if they can continue to just, stay underneath the radar, you never know. They could end up in San Antonio as well. I doubt it, but stranger things have happened this postseason.
Derek, can this team get deep into the tournament?
I mean, that Kentucky team is going to be a tough matchup for them. They've had to play their first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament without Dean Wade. He was supposed to play today. He didn't play today again. It's going to be interesting to see how that matchup with Kentucky goes. Kentucky's got a lot of size. They've got a lot of length. I had them out in the first round, losing to Creighton. I live with a K-State alum. I know she was not happy about that, but credit to Bruce Weber and figuring out how to do this and get farther in the tournament. Like Soren said, they've been out the round of 64. Finally, he gets to go to a Sweet 16. I think he's a better coach than a lot of people want to give him credit for, but they've done a good job. He's done a good job riding the ship and figuring out how to get this team to the Sweet 16 for the first time in his tenure at K-State.
All right, guys, moving on to the next question and keeping it moving. Kansas has had its share of players step up, and they've had a tremendous impact this season. Now, which player is your pick to click? Darren, we'll start with you in the center. Who's going to carry this team down the stretch?
Honestly, it's going to have to be Malik Newman. And the reason why is you know what Devontae Graham is going to be able to do. And because of his stature, people are going to be hounding him. But Malik Newman, I mean, we saw what he did during the Big 12 tournament, and we saw what he was able to do in the first couple of rounds. I think he's going to be key. And the fact that Doak, whether or not he's as healthy as he should be, I think the freshman kid, Silvio, I think he can also add something to it, add a little toughness to it. I know Mitch Lightfoot, I know he had 9 points and 11 rebounds. I just think at the end of the day, it's going to be all on Malik Newman.
Derek, who do you like going down the stretch with this team?
I think the guy that's got to click, obviously you're seeing it with Malik Newman, but I think LaGerald Vick has to be a guy that steps up and maybe goes off for a 20-point game. We saw him do it. He had a tremendous non-conference season in terms of being able to score, but once the Jayhawks got to conference play, he kind of teetered off, and you could tell he was in the doghouse a little bit with Bill Self throughout the conference play. But, you got Malik Newman scoring 28 points or 20 points and Devontae Graham scoring 29. If both those guys can click and they can get a good game from LaGerald Vick as well as Sviatoslav Mikhailuk, this Kansas team is going to be hard to stop if it can click for Vick.
Extra credit for using Spee's entire name. Soren, what do you think?
Listen, I think the beauty of this team is that they have so many different guys that can step up and get it done. And, as soon as you think they're all about Devontae Graham and he's the guy you got to stop, Malik Newman comes alive. And he's coming down the stretch run. I don't want to just say in the Big 12 tournament, but was brilliant in the Big 12 tournament. Then he only has about 10 points in the first game. They're still able to win. I agree with what Derek said. I think LaGerald Vick has had some big shots. Bill Self's pointed that out. And he's been a guy that, if they're going to leave him open because they think they've got to go to the other 3 guys. They can get it done. The other thing is, this is kind of a mature team. I mean, I know Newman's only a sophomore, but really he's been in college 3 years. Svi is only 20, but he's been in college for 4 years. There's a lot of experience there, but I think when it's all said and done, maybe not against Clemson, which is really led by its guards as well as far as what they want to do. But I think, if you look ahead to Duke, which is where I think they're going to be playing in the Elite Eight, you got a couple of big boys, a couple of more lottery picks in the middle. I think the guy that's going to be counted on is Udoka Azubuike. He's got to get healthier this week, and he's got to be ready to go. They give up 20 and 20 to Delgado of Seton Hall. That can't happen again. They're going to be 2 big boys like Delgado coming at him from Duke. So Azubuike's got to stay on the floor. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. He's got to be healthy, and I think he's the guy that can really mix it up with Duke and give those guards a chance to go out and put up the big numbers.
Guys, let me ask you this before we head to break. Which team is under the most pressure to perform in this Sweet 16? Is it KU or is it K-State, Darren?
It's got to be Kansas. Kansas is still on my bull jive list after losing at home last year at the Sprint Center. So they have the most pressure because they've had the best talented team the last 2 seasons, and the fact that they're underneath the radar, but these #1 seeds that have been knocked off, 2 of them tonight, Kansas, I think, has the most pressure going into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
Derek, who's under the most pressure?
Oh, it's got to be the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, they had one of the easiest setups in the NCAA tournament to get to the Elite Eight. Bill Self is 2-7 in Elite Eight games in his coaching career. Kansas has been there the last 2 years. They've got the opportunity to get there for a 3rd straight year. If they don't get it done this year, we might see some riots in Lawrence.
And so, Ren, your opinion on who has the hottest hand and which team is under the most pressure?
I think right now, the hottest hand is Kansas because they have so many different guys they can hand the ball to get it done, and they have the experience. But I think the pressure usually comes with the coach. I think Bruce Weber's got a lot of the experience, or a lot of the pressure off his back. Maryland, Baltimore County, I don't know that makes everybody happy, but the Sweet 16 is the Sweet 16. He's pretty much playing with house money now. Kansas has to not only win this game, they got to win the next one as well. And that's a big burden to take on your shoulders, but it's the burden you accept when you put on a Kansas uniform.
Oh, it's going to be a burden of proof for everybody here as we go down the stretch. And we're not done talking about basketball because there's an interesting guy out in Columbia. His name is Michael Porter Jr. Is he coming back to Mizzou after being all injured? Is he still a hot commodity for the NBA draft? We'll talk about that. Plus, the Chiefs making those big moves. We'll get these guys' opinion on that next on Sunday Soundoff.
You're watching Sunday Soundoff with D. Jackson, sponsored by Victory Ford.
Well, I just got through checking my Twitter and seeing what you guys think about Michael Porter Jr. Some very interesting answers out there. And after sitting out most of the season, we asked, do you think that Michael Porter Jr. should return to Mizzou for another year or go ahead and declare for the NBA? We'll start it with our neophyte. Mr. Derek, what do you think about that?
Well, I think Michael Porter Jr., I think what he's going to do is he's going to go to the NBA because how often are you going to be a top 5 pick? I know if he comes back, there is the other issue of he could get hurt, he could get injured again. I think a lot of credit needs to be given to the kid and the fact that he got hurt, he missed 4 months, he came back, he tried to give it all. It was clear in the SEC tournament, and it was clear when they played Florida State the other night that he was not at 100%, but he's going to be a lottery pick. This was a guy who, as a junior, when he was in high school at Tolton Catholic down in Columbia, Missouri, was touted and said he could have been the first overall pick as a junior in high school, and he goes to college, and it doesn't go the way that he had hoped or he had planned. But I think he needs to go to the NBA and get his money, because if you come back to college, why come back and play for free when you can always go to the pros and get more money?
That is a major concern, but is he physically up to it, Soren Petro? Can he put his body through the torture of going to the NBA grind?
Yeah, and that's the thing, how healthy is that back? The number 65, 70% were being thrown around. It's a very different question being asked of him than it is of, say, a Trae Young, who I think is probably thinking about it more than other people think. Trae Young led the country in points and assists. If he's going to come back, you have to show that you've grown if you come back to college. If you come back and regress, that's going to bomb your draft status. And so Trae Young's got to look at it and say, how do I possibly top what I did statistically this year? For me, I think he has to go. I think Porter Jr.'s a different case, and I think it might actually rest with Jonte Porter. I think those two wanted to play together. I agree with what Derek said. I think it's absolutely huge props should be given to Michael Porter Jr. for coming out and playing and trying to get Mizzou as far as he could, because the safe thing would have been to sit on the sidelines, because I think he would have helped his draft status, or he certainly wouldn't have hurt it by not playing. Now he comes out. I don't think anyone's going to worry, any of the NBA scouts going to worry about the lack of shooting percentage. He got on the boards this last time. I think that was a good sign. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how does he work out? How healthy is that back? Can he show the explosion? There are drills that they will run him through that will show just how healthy and how explosive he can be. And if he's not explosive come draft time, then he might as well come back. But if Jonte Porter's there, does he want to come back and play? So this might all ride on where Jonte Porter projects and where he goes. I think at the end of the day, he's going to go. Derek's right. He's going to be a lottery pick. I think he's probably about pick number 6 or 7 in the draft. But if the explosion's not there, the NBA scouts will sniff it out.
Yeah, the family connection certainly there. Jonte, his brother, his dad, Michael Sr., part of that staff. Darren, how does that family connection weigh into his decision to stay or leave?
Well, I'll put it like this. First of all, of course, first of all, he should never have to go to college to begin with. If he was that good, he should have been able to just do, not even go to college and just go straight to the NBA. So once the NBA fixes that one and done, I think we won't be having this discussion in the future. But that being said, with MU hiring his father, and then next thing you know, both of the Porters show up to MU, I think because they're already well off, that him going or actually him staying is not going to be that big a deal. I personally think that he should stay because you just don't see enough. And granted, he'll be a lottery pick. They'll give him a lot of money, but I see him as another Joel Embiid. When you have a back injury, it's not like it's going to heal all the way up and he's going to come in and do what Joel Embiid is doing this season. So at the end of the day, I think he should come back. I know he won't, and I just wish him the best.
Well, you bring up a great point about the economics at home and how the pressure is not on the kid to actually go to the NBA
Correct.
when your parents are well off. That's a great point. Want to switch gears now to the Chiefs, you guys' favorite football football team. Which Chiefs moves this week made you stand up and cheer, and which moves just left you disappointed, scratching your heads? We'll start in the center square. Darren, I know you can be very animated about the Chiefs at times. What did you think about these moves?
Well, let me just say this, because we all know that the Chiefs listen to what we say on the radio and stuff. I will just say that I am actually impressed offensively on what they do. I'm still not quite convinced with the play calling, but offensively, the Chiefs should be one of the top 3 highest scoring teams in the league. Defensively, I'm still waiting for my appetite to be quenched. And of course, I'm disappointed that we got rid of Marcus Peters. They'll tell us one thing, but we all know the real reason why he was dismissed.
Well, Soren, there's a lot of chatter about why he was dismissed. There's also a lot of chatter about how well this offense may have improved. Do you think they're on the upswing?
Yeah, offensively, they better be. For crying out loud, they made Sammy Watkins the 4th highest paid receiver in the NFL when they were the number 5 offense overall, the number 6 scoring offense, and the number 7 passing offense in the NFL. That's a big investment to make on the side of the ball that you're already really good at. It's the other side of the ball that they have problems. Now, to their credit, they are making moves over there as well. I like the Hitchens move a lot. If you want the simple answer to it, because I think Sammy Watkins has got a lot to prove. This is a guy who averaged 760 yards and 6 touchdowns in his first 4 years. That's not going to cut it. You can't get that from him and say that's a good signing. So Andy Reid, he's got to stay healthy, and Andy Reid's got to have new ways to work him into that scheme, and those numbers have got to look a lot bigger for this team. But I get where they're going. They've got a receiver who's due up cap-wise each of the next 3 years, so this gives them insurance on that. And I think the guy I probably stand up for the most and get excited about is Brett Veach. I like that the young guy is not just sitting back and being conservative and saying, I'm just going to take my draft picks and hope that they go well, because if I make a big move, it could blow up in my face. He is making, dropping bombs everywhere, and that's the sign of a guy who's really confident in what he's doing. So Veach is the guy that I like the most in what he's doing, that he has a plan and he's not afraid to fire on it.
Well, we've touched on the front office. We've touched on the defense and the offense. What about special teams, Derek? What do you think about the signings on special teams? Maybe a guy like DeAnthony Thomas coming back. Is that yes or no for you?
Well, I've never been a real big DeAnthony Thomas fan. I know he's a guy who can contribute and does good things on special teams. I look at it, what else does he bring to you offensively? You've already got a guy like Tyreek Hill who's explosive, who can make plays. Now, they don't want to use him as much on special teams. DeAnthony Thomas is a guy more so who's going to be used as a gunner, strictly on special teams. I'm not a fan, like Soren has said multiple times. I didn't want Dustin Colquitt to come back. He's a great guy, but I think it's time that you go and you move on and find a younger, cheaper option competition in the draft. I mean, we saw when Texas played Missouri how effective having a weapon like that punter that they had down there was in their bowl game. I think the Chiefs are going younger, but it's confusing a little bit too, because in some positions they're staying the same or getting a little bit older. I thought with the youth movement we would see a lot more younger guys on the special team side, like with Dustin Colquitt not coming back. But he's at a good price for the Chiefs, I guess, according to Brett Veach, is what he believes.
Still plenty of time on Twitter to hit us up. Let us know what you think about those Chiefs moves. When we come back, it's the final hodgepodge. We will get inside these guys' heads and see what they're thinking. It's next on Sunday Soundoff. Home stretch of Sunday Sound Off, where we talk about whatever's on the guys' minds. I will start off by giving a shout out to Grandview and the Bulldogs. Congratulations on your state championship. We will start right here with Derek, the rookie. Go.
Hey, for everyone that knows me, I am a University of Central Missouri alum out in Warrensburg. I want to say congratulations and good luck to the UCM women's basketball team as they get ready to play in their first Elite Eight in over 30 years later on this week up in South Dakota. Bring it home to Warrensburg.
All right, the man in the middle from the ship. Darren, what's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I'm a Lincoln University HBCU graduate and alum, so I got to just make sure I say that. But I also want to give a shout out to my teammates out at Sprint, Team Slaughterhouse, Kyle, Anthony, Bree, Shira, just everybody out there at Sprint. Just want to say, what's that?
All right, giving the HBCU shout-outs. I can appreciate that as an HBCU grad, and my parents and grandparents, Lincoln graduates as well. So, Ren, what is on your mind?
Well, I'll say congrats again to Bruce Weber. I think no coach deserves to live on his own job bubble every single year, and I think that's where Bruce Weber's been for the last 3 years. Hopefully this run into the Sweet 16, and hopefully there's a win against Kentucky to get him really off that bubble to where the K-State fans can embrace him. And welcome to being the coach of Missouri, Conzo Martin. You get 1 year where it's all somebody else's fault. After this, all the pressure's on you. So now, welcome to the job.
Oh, very well put. It is a very fickle business, if you will, as is what we do as well. Want to thank the guests, Derek making his debut, Darren, and Soren Petro. I'm D. Jackson. Of course, we'll have all your March Madness highlights.
Join 41 Action Sports every Sunday night at 10:25 for Sunday Soundoff. Get the latest sports news and opinions from the experts right here in Kansas City. Sunday Soundoff, Sunday nights at 10:25. Sponsored by Victory Ford, where everyone gets a victory. Located across from Legend.